All right, welcome everyone. Today, we're going to get into the weeds and deconstruct the architecture of our future digital identity. We're going to look at the tools that are promising to give us back control in a world that's, well, more digital than ever.
So let's just kick things off with a pretty big question. I want you to think about all your online accounts, your social media profiles, all that data you create every single day. Who's really in charge of it? Who owns it? The answer, as you might guess, isn't so straightforward. You see, right now, our digital lives are fragmented, scattered across all these different platforms. Each service we use kind of holds a piece of our identity hostage in its own little silo. And that's not just inconvenient. It creates these massive single points of failure, making our data super vulnerable and leaving us with almost no real control. But there's a new model emerging, and it's called self-sovereign identity, or SSI for short. The core idea is actually incredibly simple, but it's totally revolutionary. Your digital identity should belong to you and only you. No more middlemen, no more corporate gatekeepers. It's a fundamental shift in who holds the power. So, how does this actually work? Well, the building blocks are these things called verifiable credentials. The easiest way to think about them is like a digital passport or a digital diploma, but with a kind of unbreakable cryptographic seal. This seal makes them mathematically impossible to fake, which means they're totally tamper-proof and way more trustworthy than, say, a screenshot or a PDF. And this all happens within a simple framework they call the trust triangle. So let's walk through an example. Your university, the issuer, creates and signs a digital diploma for you. You, the holder, store it safely in a digital wallet on your phone. Then, when you apply for a job, that company, the verifier, can ask to see it, and they can instantly cryptographically check that it's legit without ever having to pick up the phone and call the university. Okay, so the concept is clearly powerful, but how do we go from a cool idea to something real that people can use? Well, that's where the Architect's Toolkit comes in, and we're going to start with a foundational framework called Veramo. Now, instead of thinking about some rigid pre-built product, you should think of Veramo as a massive box of digital Legos. Seriously, it's a JavaScript toolkit that gives developers all the essential bricks for security, for communication, for verification, so they can build pretty much any kind of identity solution they can dream up. And this really gets to the core philosophy behind Veramo. As this quote puts it, modularity isn't just some secondary feature, it's the entire foundation. In a field that changes as quickly as this one, that kind of design is absolutely crucial. It means developers aren't locked into old tech. They can just unplug an old component and plug in a new one whenever standards evolve. You can really see this philosophy in how Veramo evolved. It actually grew out of an earlier project called Uport, which was tied specifically to the Ethereum blockchain. But it's matured a lot since then into this modern ledger-agnostic framework. And that's just a fancy way of saying it's not locked into any single blockchain or database. It can work with all sorts of different systems. So how does Veramo actually pull off this Lego-like flexibility? Well, the secret is under the hood, and it's really clever plugin system. At the very heart of Veramo is this tiny, lightweight core called the agent. Now, by itself, the agent does almost nothing. You can think of it like the conductor of an orchestra. It doesn't play any of the instruments itself, but it directs all the individual musicians, the plugins, to work together in perfect harmony. This means a developer can just pick and choose exactly what they need for their project. Need to handle secure keys? Grab the Key Manager plugin. Need to issue W3C standard credentials? Plug that one in. This a la carte approach is what makes it so incredibly flexible and so powerful. But here's where the real magic of this approach comes in. Since it's all built on JavaScript, the same core logic can power a backend server, run directly in a user's web browser, or be compiled into a native mobile app for your phone. It's basically write once, run anywhere for the world of digital identity. But even the most flexible toolkit like Veramo needs a solid foundation to build on, right? A secure and reliable layer of trust. And for many big enterprise-grade solutions, that foundation is a technology called Hyperledger Besu. Think of Hyperledger Besu as the digital bedrock for this whole new architecture. It's an enterprise-grade version of the Ethereum software, and it's built specifically for the kind of privacy, control, and high performance that large organizations absolutely need, things that public networks can't always guarantee. One of its key features for businesses is how it validates transactions. On a private network, it can use something called proof of authority.
All this really means is that a set of trusted, known parties are the ones who approve transactions, which makes them incredibly fast and guarantees that once an identity is recorded, it's final. For institutions dealing with sensitive data, that kind of certainty is completely non-negotiable. So we've got the flexible Legos of Veramo and the solid bedrock of Besu. The question now is, how do these two powerful pieces actually snap together to create a complete identity solution?
The bridge that connects them is a standard called Diddy Ether. Just think of it as a specific address format that allows Veramo to locate and manage identities on a Besu network. It uses this tiny, efficient smart contract, which is basically a little program that lives on the blockchain, to act as a public directory for these identities. This makes it super easy to do things like update your security keys without a lot of cost or hassle.
Now, of course, Veramo isn't the only tool out there. Its API-first philosophy makes it fantastic for developers who just want flexibility. That's pretty different from a framework like Hyperledger Aries, which is more like a strict rulebook designed to make sure different systems can all talk to each other. And it's different again from something like Spruce ID, which is all about raw speed and performance. Each one is designed for a slightly different job. And this difference in philosophy really shows up in user feedback. According to G2 reviews, developers rate Veramo's ease of use at 8.5 out of 10. That's significantly higher than the 6.8 they give to Hyperledger's tools. And it really highlights just how much developers appreciate that friendly, Lego-like design. And that really brings us to the key takeaway. It's this powerful combination, this synergy. Veramo gives us the adaptable, developer-friendly toolkit to build the applications, while Hyperledger Besu provides the secure, enterprise-grade foundation for those applications to stand on. It's the best of both worlds. And this brings us full circle, right back to that first question. The technologies we've explored today aren't just abstract code. They are the architectural blueprints for a future where we can finally, confidently say that we own our digital selves. So the only question that remains is, what are we going to build with that power?